beaming from Pacific Junction Hotel to Earth. Girth.
You actually just did a, what was it, at the library? The Sleuth Adventure?
Yeah.
What's
it
called? Or?
It's called the Junior Sleuth Academy.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing the comic workshop every Saturday in October, but this was like on the Sunday last week, and it's like part writing workshop, part scavenger hunt. Like it's like you tell kids about like how to write a mystery, and then they actually have to solve a mystery.
Are they good
so like
detectives?
Go around. They're pretty good. It's funny because like I hid all these like they had to like find clues hidden in the library, and they're all like in the basement.
Yeah.
And like my favorite part is like the first thing that happened is like this kid. I was like, you have to find these clues, and it's a big group, so it's hard to like keep track of all of them. So there are like 40 kids like running around, and the one kid like runs like into this corner past like the clue, and like picks up like this like trash that's in the corner. And he's like, "Is this a clue?" And it's just like garbage. I think it was like a mousetrap package. I was like, "No, that's not a clue."
Okay, so not everybody's cut out to be a detective.
No, exactly.
You know what I mean? They should do those like personality tests for kids in school,
Yeah.
right? You, not a detective. Maybe try accounting or something.
You can be the
or garbage man.
You can be the criminal, yeah.
Yeah, that's true too.
It'll be easier for the detective to catch you.
Mm-hmm. First thing I ever saw from you, check this out. Remember this?
Oh man, magnets from the Amazing Challengers of Unknown Mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
They're like superheroes, but without the tights or the excitement. and they live in Waterloo.
Yeah.
That was a blast from the past, man.
It is.
This is on my fridge.
That's amazing. I have a couple other friends who still have it on their fridge. I was like, oh, so bizarre.
To go look back and think about, like, your comic.
Yeah. I mean, you can kind of see, like, I feel like a lot of my interests are the same from then to now. Like, I kind of do local stuff, like kind of set it where I'm familiar with, and like kind of doing stuff that's like both kind of like fantastical but also super mundane at the same time. Right? Like it's like, oh, they're like centaurs and like people have psychic powers, but then they also have to like do laundry and like do like really boring stuff as well.
Yeah. Do you miss, I guess you're still doing a lot of drawing and like that's part of your work or whatever, but have you done like, and it's part of the books as well.
Yeah.
But have you sat down to actually write another graphic novel, or because you had the post-apocalyptic?
Yeah, like I've done comic. Like I really miss it. So like there was like before I did, there was Amazing Challengers, and then after that I did Quarter Life Crisis, which is about a post-apocalyptic Toronto. And then I got into doing the kids' books, which are illustrated, like they're like a Nancy Drew book or a Hardy Boys book, like every 15 pages. And I've done a lot of little comic stuff and illustration stuff for a bunch of different projects. So I'm still like drawing like all the time, but I haven't sat down to do like a comic or graphic novel in a while. And I have an idea that I've like been wanting to work on, and also wanting to continue the Quarter Life Crisis, which I always joke at this point it's more like midlife crisis, like so much older than when the first one came out. But yeah, I really need to get back to it, and I'm hoping like over this winter I'll have more time to work on some actual comic book work.
Is Quarter Life Crisis, you envisioned that as like a trilogy, or how did it...
I actually envisioned it, because I'm like super literal, I envisioned it as 4 parts, so each one would be a quarter.
Oh,
so the
clever.
idea is that there were 4 books, and each of the 4 books was going to be about a different character. So like they'd have a different protagonist. So the first one was about the kind of 2 brothers who kind of get around on their own, and it follows their story. But the second book was going to be about a totally different character, and like they'd still be in the story, but they wouldn't be the focus anymore. They'd be kind of background characters. And the second book was actually going to be about like one of the characters who's like kind of a villain in the first one, like one of the sort of bad guys ostensibly, and kind of follows her, and you kind of see her, like everything from her perspective. Like the story continues on forward chronologically, but like from a totally different perspective.
That's cool.
So each of the 4 books was going to be like from a different character's perspective.
Man, and you only got the 1 out.
I only got the 1, I know. I'm so slow with the drawing.
Yeah. And it's crazy too, because it's like after the Stephen King thing. So when he got hit by a van, I was reading the what's it called, the trilogy, the Dark Tower trilogy.
Oh yeah.
Oh well, it's turned out to be like
more
7.
now,
yeah, it was like 7 or 8 books, whatever. But
Yeah.
he got hit around book 3 or book 4. And so when he got hit by a van, I was like, oh no!
There goes, yeah, how's the story?
yeah, I don't want the guy, just the publisher, find somebody and like,
Yeah.
he had a couple of notes kicking around in his desk.
Yeah.
Finish it, right? So thankfully he's okay and he finished the series and whatever. But yeah, even like when people were like, Harry Potter was like all like on fire, and everybody's, you gotta read Harry Potter. You gotta read Harry Potter. I'm like, I'm waiting till all the books are out.
I want to make sure it actually ends. Yeah. Well, that's what would happen with the comic too. Like I would, and it's with the books too. Like everyone's kind of like doesn't want to start it when there's just one, right? So you'd like go to comic conventions and they're like, oh, like. They're like, you're like, oh, it's a series, and like, but there's only one book. So, and like even with the kids' books, it was like when there was one, people were not. Now that there's three, I think three is kind of like the critical mass where people are like, oh, I might start reading it because like now it's definitely a series. It's not just like they tried to make a series and they're gonna give up. Yeah. So this one, like, this is supposed to be 7 in total. I'm on contract to do 7 of the books.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be 7 books in total. But I think at that 3 is when people start like, okay, I guess they're committed. I guess they're actually putting these out on a somewhat regular schedule.
And then why did you choose to, knowing like because it's just established your comic book background, why did you choose to like write words instead of
I don't know. I mean, I think I've like always liked the writing part of comics, and I think like working, just doing like self-published comics for a long time, I kind of felt like I was a bit more interested in the writing part than some of the other like guys and girls I was hanging out with who were doing comics. Like I like drawing too, but I never thought that was my strength. I always thought I was a little better at the writing, or like that what I did in the writing made it a bit different from like other self-published comic and indie comic stuff. So I love illustrating, but it's just like maybe I'll just focus on the words and do something completely different, like do like not the comic stuff I've been doing, but a totally different story and totally different kind of setup. But I wanted to include drawing too, and there are parts like when I'm writing, I'm always like, oh, I wish I could just draw this. Like I could draw this and it would explain everything in like 10 minutes, and like instead of like describing actions, especially is the worst, where you're like trying to describe a complex motion of a character or something like that. You're like, oh, if I could just draw this, it'd be so much easier. I
mean, partly because I know you, but also just the way it's narrated too. The books, they're very, I guess, sarcastic. Is that kind of a way to?
Yeah, that's fair. Like,
you know what I mean? Yeah. But it's not like a negative sarcasm. It's just like.
Yeah, I think so. Like the books are set up so that there's actually like 2 narrators, and one is like this sort of like non-person, like just sort of like this third-person narrator who knows everything and is kind of a know-it-all. Like they're kind of like, like you said, they're like very sarcastic. And I think that we've actually like toned it down. Like I remember the first, like the narrator was like kind of mean towards like October and stuff, and still is. Like they're still like, oh, they just figured, like they're like kind of poke fun at the characters. And then there's October herself, who is like less sarcastic but is still sarcastic because I guess I'm still writing this. So yeah, I tried to include that. Like it's like, I guess I kind of took a lot of lead more from like Daniel Handler and Lemony Snicket books rather than like J.K. Rowling. Like I wanted to have like this kind of like ironic level on it, where it's kind of like making fun and like kind of
it's a better word maybe than a sarcasm, irony. I guess.
Yeah. There's a certain level of irony, a certain level of like knowingness of like, oh, this is kind of ridiculous to the whole thing.
But it also fits with the character, like that. It's that teenagery type tone.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And like October herself is supposed to be like she's goth. She like kind of like feels at a distance to most of her classmates and stuff like that. So it makes sense that the narrator of the books too is similarly kind of like detached and like kind of sees everything as kind of amusing in that way. Yeah. And like I guess the other thing too is like there are a lot of references, because like basically I don't understand the world without, I think you're like this too, like you don't understand the world without like a pop culture sort of or not like mirror to real life events. So I just like would refer to it all the time. And when the first book came in, they were like, oh, kids aren't going to understand. It's like, you're clearly like 20 years older than the kids who are going to read this book.
Yeah.
They don't know what, they don't know who ABBA or who like, or what the Friday the 13th movies are or anything like that. And they're like, you're going to have to explain them or cut them out. And so it's like, well, what if I made like this glossary in the back that explains all that stuff? So that became like the compromise. And now it's like my favorite part of the book to write is like the glossary at the back where you explain in like 2 sentences like what the Fast and the Furious movies are or like what, I don't know.
Here's one from the new book. It's Loyalist to a Fault. This is the new one.
Yeah.
And then you said, the pirate still glowing in the center of the library like a tile in Michael Jackson's video for Billie Jean. Staggered back and grabbed at his sword handle. And then you go to 283 in your appendix here.
Yeah, and you can look up what Billie Jean is for the kids who don't know.
And where is it here? Where did it go? Here it is. Billie Jean, one of Prince of Pop, Michael Jackson's greatest singles, is a song that basically mirrors a paternity test episode of the Maury Povich Show. There's references within references.
Exactly,
too.
yeah. Now they have to go figure out what the Maury Povich is.
This is like homework. You're making the kids work. Like during the music video, Jackson dances on a series of tiles that light up as he steps on them. That's amazing. Yeah.
Because, like, for me, like, when I'm thinking of how the pirate is glowing, I'm seeing it as that music video because I used to watch music videos, like, nonstop as a kid. But I realize, like, a kid now, like, doesn't watch music videos. Or if they do, they're not watching ones with Michael Jackson, most likely, right? That'd be like me watching, like, I don't know, videos of, like, James Brown when I was a kid, which I'm sure I did every once in a while, but not to the extent that I was watching stuff that was new.
Yeah.
So.
Explain to me then, just what's young adult mean? Because that's kind of like what your demographic or your genre of book is, right?
Well, actually, it's different. So this has had to be explained to me when I started writing. So I write actually for middle grade, which is 9 to 12-year-olds. Okay. I'd say it's the upper end of that. Like, I usually tell parents who are like, I have a kid that's 9. I'm like, unless they're a really strong reader, like, this might be too complicated for them. So I'm like, 11 and 12 is kind of a safer bet. But that's sort of the younger end. And then young adult is a bit older than that. And kind of the difference, like, the kind of books that people know, like, Harry Potter is middle grade, so Harry Potter is 9 to 12. And, like, Twilight is young adult. And actually, the literal only difference between them is sex. Like, literally, like, whether the characters, not necessarily that the characters are having it, although I guess that's the case in Twilight, but that they're even, like, thinking about it, or if it's, like, something that they're interested in doing. Yeah, exactly. Then they're young adult. Because if you think about it, it's the same. Like, in the Harry Potter books, by the end, they're the same age as they are in Twilight, right? They're graduating high school, which is the age of, like, kids in young adult books. But, like, no one in Harry Potter ever thinks about sex. Like, they kiss, I guess, and they, like, go to the dance, but they're never like, they're never like, I hope I lose my virginity on prom night, right? But they are in young adult books, and that's kind of, like, literally the only difference. So my book, like, when it was explained to me, I was like, they were like, your book is not young adult, it's 9 to 12 because the characters, like, they're in high school, they're like first year high school, but they don't think about sex at all. So that's sort of the difference.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. That's what, because Harry Potter's a good example where it was aimed at children. Yeah. And then but it blew up and it crossed over to adults or even like 20-somethings. And
usually the thing is, like, they're all like, if it's a middle grade or a young adult, it's always like characters that are younger than, like, a lot of books, but it's also like younger and you're in their mindset and it's happening in the present. Because there are a lot of books that are, like, for adults that are from kids' perspective, right? Like, they have, like, kid protagonists and things like that, but a lot of times they're looking back at the past. They're looking back when they were a
Wonder
kid.
Years.
Yeah, exactly. Or they have, like, a kind of, like, an adult take on things, whereas, like, young adult and middle grade, it's like they're kids and they think like kids and they think in the present day. It's not like them looking back like, now I think back to... So that's kind of the other main difference. But yeah, I feel like nowadays especially just as many adults are reading young adult books as kids are, right? And I think back when I was a kid, I think it's different now, but when I was a kid, by the time I was like the age range that young adult is aimed for, I was reading adult books, right? Like, I was, like, reading Stephen King. I was reading, like, Michael Crichton, I think, was, like, a huge, like, when I was, like, 12 or 13, I was like, Michael Crichton's everything. So I was reading adult books by that point, and not, like, I would have no interest in young adult, really.
The genre, it seems, I'm not an expert by any means, but it seems like after the success of Harry Potter and Twilight and some of those things. Lemony Snicket was another one that kind of did well, too. Like, those, it seemed to, like, kind of the balloon, and people were kind of writing more, was when you and I were kids. It was just like, here's some Trixie Belden and here's some Hardy Boys.
Yeah, for sure. Like, they're not, like, I don't, like you're saying, like, young adult to that extent didn't exist. Like, there were books like Babysitter's Club, right? And, like, Sweet Valley High, which is, like, kind of similar. Or, like, ones I read were, like, I think they're even younger, but, like, Bunnicula, like, those ones about, the dog and cat solve, like, mysteries about vampire rabbits, and there's a guy named John Belair's who wrote, like, a series of mysteries. But, yeah, there wasn't, like, this sort of, like, young adult, at least not to the extent there was now, but you're right, it's, like, stuff like Harry Potter and Twilight have, like, really kind of grown, and it's, like, an area of books that's actually growing, whereas a lot of other sort of areas of publishing have not, like, young adult is, like, blowing up, and then it's like, we can make money because, like, there are at least two major demographics that are interested in this, right?
And as you said too, like, it's when you can parcel it as a series, right? And it was
Yeah,
hard
yeah.
for you to just kind of get the first one out the door. And it's a series, I promise.
Yeah, trust me. Yeah, I'm working on the next one. Don't worry.
Right? And that's what people like, because then they can just
Mm-hmm.
like, that's especially with Harry Potter and the Twilight, just follow the books.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like has the same appeal as like television series, right? In a way that movies don't, where it's like, oh, if I enjoy this, there's like 3 more seasons of this, right?
Yeah.
Versus like, oh, I have no idea if there's ever going to be any more of that.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is too, the trick is something I didn't know is that most writers like usually have like a few in the can before they get the first one published. So they have like a backlog. They have like a kind of buffer. So it's like I have 3 done when the first one comes out, so I don't have to like madly rush to finish the next one. Which would have been smart. Like mystery writers do it all the time, which is how they put out like one a year, like one every half year.
Yeah.
But I did not think ahead. I actually wasn't sure that people would want one, like publishers would want one beyond the first one when I finished.
Really?
Yeah, I kind of set it up as like it could be a series, but also it could just end that way because I wasn't sure that anyone wanted to keep doing it or that it would be moderately successful.
So I guess just break it down. What was the initial pitch then when you went to a publisher? This was like Hardy Boys meets like Patrick Swayze's Ghost?
Yeah. Well, usually I don't think I ever used it as an elevator pitch, but my elevator pitch now when I just like meet people on the street or like at parties, I'm like, oh, it's like if Nancy Drew were goth and all her friends are dead is like basically the story because that's what it is. And also like there's a bit of like Canadian history in there too, or just like history in general. So yeah, when I pitched it around, like usually when you shop a book around, you send out the whole manuscript. But yeah, in the cover letter, I kind of pitched it that way. I was like, yeah, it's like a mystery series, but you know they're ghosts and they can get around undetected and stuff, and it's supposed to be sort of funny and supposed to be learn a little bit about history. But a lot of people were not. It's funny, like especially. I mean, partially it was probably my writing was like. I edited it a bunch of times between when I first sent it out and when it got published. So at first, I'm sure the first version was like pretty crummy. But at the other end, there are a lot of publishers who are not interested for a few things. Like one was like they didn't like all the Canadian history, which is weird when you think about Canadian publishers. Like, don't you want this? But especially kids publishers, a lot of how they make money is they get their money through selling foreign rights. And like literally no other country in the world cares about Canadian history, right?
It's
so
a
like,
pretty boring history, right? Like,
Hudson
Bay, and then that's pretty much. You know
I
what
feel like it's interesting, but like literally like nobody cares. Like think about like I don't know, like what's a comparable country? Like you're not gonna read a book about like Swiss history here in Canada or something like that. So they were worried that they couldn't sell foreign rights to this book because there was so much like so much CanCon.
Yeah.
But then other people, the first book is a lot about the FLQ, which a lot of people in Canada are still very like touchy about, right? Like they don't want to touch that subject because it's like there are a lot of hard feelings both ways about the FLQ. Were they like freedom fighters? Were they terrorists? Like how do we approach this subject? So
angers up the blood,
right? Yeah, and so especially because in the first book, like one of the main character, like a character who's like kind of like her like favorite teacher turns out to be, spoiler alert, like he was a youthful member of the FLQ, is like, oh, how do we treat this? Like if we're gonna but if we're gonna act as if the FLQ are bad guys, how do we treat this like ostensibly good guy when he used to be FLQ, and like, or are we saying something about the FLQ because he is this like positive force? So a lot of publishers didn't like the sort of like moral ambiguity of that character as well because it was a kid's book, which I was like, I don't know, I felt it was unfair. Like, I like books with, and I feel like kids like just some moral ambiguity, right?
Yeah, and just the fact that October is hanging out with quote-unquote dead kids, too.
Yeah.
That, I think, is already, like, a little bit of a grayish area.
It's a bit morbid, yeah. And I've done, like, because the first 2 books are up for some, like, nice library awards, which gets you invited to a lot of schools, and some of those schools are Catholic schools. So every once in a while, they'll get, like, a nice letter who was like from like one of the Catholic school principals, like, oh, it's very nice, you said some very nice things about writing and reading. It's like I feel like some of the content may have been inappropriate because it's all about like life after death and ghosts and like I guess the occult, right, which is still pretty taboo at Catholic schools. So
Was there any influences from, like you mentioned, Nancy Drew is kind of your elevator pitch, sort of.
Yeah.
Was there any influences from Nancy Drew, Hardy Boys, Scooby-Doo, all that kind of stuff? Because
I
can see some of it.
For sure. Like, Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys, definitely. Scooby-Doo is, like, if you're doing any kind of mystery where they're, like, ghosts, like, there's no way you can avoid Scooby-Doo at all. And I watched a lot of it growing up. The other ones, like, the other kind of 2 main ones are not books. their television. So like when I was thinking of the book, I was trying to combine two of my favorite shows. I want to combine Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Veronica Mars and like mash them into one show.
Okay, yeah.
So it's kind of like teen detective and like supernatural stuff.
Yeah.
And like kind of have like, and in both of them have kind of that same kind of ironic tone too. So I was kind of
had a strong female.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so I was like those are kind of big influences as well. Because they're both kind of like kind of funny, but kind of serious. And yeah. So,
and a strong female. Actually, I just realized it's a strong female with a strange name. October is not a very common.
Oh yeah.
Right, and Veronica.
Yeah, exactly.
And Buffy.
Yeah, well, the October, that is a funny thing because people always ask like, "Oh, why'd you come up with the name October Schwartz?" And I always tell people, I'm like, "Oh, I tried to think of the most goth name I could." So it's like there are a lot of kids named like April and June and even August. Like those are common names after month. And I was like, nobody's named after any of the Burr months, right? Nobody's named November. Or, so it's like October is the most goth month because Halloween happens in it. And then Schwartz is German for black. So I'm like, her name's like October Black, which is like a pretty goth name, right? Yeah.
No.
And it would be a memorable name, right? Like, especially on your lead character, you want them. I was always thinking exactly like Veronica Mars, Encyclopedia Browns, like stuff where it's just like, oh, there's no other October Schwartz, right?
Yeah. So then when people Google it or look it up,
that's
it. Like when you go to Encyclopedia Brown into Google, that's all you get.
Yeah, exactly. There are no other Encyclopedia Browns.
That's cool. And so this is the third one now, Loyalist to a Fault.
Yeah.
And then so it's been well received, and like people are like now kind of getting it and digging it, and
yeah, it's exciting. Like the first two, I've been really lucky because the first two are up for the Silver Birch Award, which is like this great award in Ontario where basically it's a library nominates books for certain age levels, and just getting it's like you know how people in the Oscars always say like it's an honor just to be nominated, but it actually is for this one because like. By just getting nominated, basically every library and every school in Ontario like orders like a few copies of the book because the kids are really encouraged to read the award nominees. So it doesn't matter. I mean, I guess it's nice to say you won, but it's like it doesn't matter. Like they've already like thousands of kids are reading this book because it's on this short list. So the first two are up for that, which has really helped, I think, build like a readership for it. And yeah, as you say, like now that there's a third one, they're actually kids who like read the series. It's really weird because I work in a bookstore. I work at Book City, and I think it was the first time it happened the other weekend where like our parents always come in looking for recommendations. They're like, oh, my kid's 12, they really like reading, can you recommend anything? And this is the first time where I was like, oh, what other books have they read that they liked? And the parent was like, oh, she really likes this Dead Kid Detective Agency series. And I was like, what, really? Like I couldn't believe. I was like, really? That's weird.
Like sure it wasn't an employee putting you on.
I know. Like exactly. Like even if they read it and like it, I can't believe that was like the first one book series that came to mind when like, oh, do you have anything else like that? So yeah, it's nice to see that like there are kids who are reading it and who enjoy it.
Yeah, it is cool. The feedback you're getting from children too, do they send you any letters or anything like that? Or?
Yeah, it's pretty, I get some letters sometimes, especially like around Silver Birch time when they like lead up to the awards. Usually get some from schools that come like, you know, a bunch of kids send you a letter from school. So they usually have like really good questions and I reply back to them. There's like the one kid sent me like an interview recently and I was like, why did you make October goth? And like stuff like they just ask questions that like adults don't ask you that you didn't even really think of. You're like, oh, how's that? But they're really good questions. So there's a lot of that. I also remember there's some like really good responses. I think for the first book, when it got nominated, school asked kids to like write or do video reviews of the books. Oh,
that's really cool.
Yeah, but the one kid and they like put them up on like YouTube and stuff later. And the one I saw was like this girl who hated the book, and she was like, "This book is so boring," and she like went on this like minute-long rant about how boring the book was. And I was like, that was good. It was good feedback. It's good to know. And I mean, to be fair, like I take that the first book is kind of boring, at least the lead-in. Like the first. It takes a while to get to any action.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids said that. They're like, oh, it's really boring. Like, once I got past the first 50 pages, it was good. But, like, I was, like, really bored to start off. And I kept that in mind. I was like, well, I can't wait so long to get into, like, the actual narrative of the story. I can't have too much preamble.
Yeah.
So, yeah, as much as it's, like, kind of funny to, like, get such hate from, like, kids. And it's great because kids are, like, I did publicity for adult books forever, right? And, like, Adults are never like tell you what they really feel like. Even if they hate the book, if you see them at a party, like they'll talk to authors and like, oh, it was interesting. Like they'll come up with all these kind of like euphemisms for things that they don't like it. Whereas kids will just be like, yeah, the book was really boring. Like they have no compunction about telling you they hate a book.
But I kind of find that
even
refreshing.
if you're the author. Yeah, no, it's great. You're like, I get actual feedback. I don't just get people being polite and like saying
because
it's like
when you get like an adult telling you it's interesting. That's that vague code word already. Where
and I'm like, how does that help me? Like, I don't know what to do with that. Whereas someone's like, it was really boring. The first 50 pages, like, I almost fell asleep. I'm like, oh, okay, I need to fix that next time I write a book. Yeah.
Can you read I know you made some notes here. Can you read a piece?
Yeah, sure. Do you want me to read?
Yeah.
This section?
Well, whatever section or whatever you normally read when you go to
a... Okay, yeah, there's a few different ones.
Like,
I guess I'll read.
To give us a little sample, give us a little preview of like what you're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just trying to see if there's another section. This one's pretty good. Oh, there's a good section later on. I'm gonna read that about her. So this is a section in the book where the mystery kind of revolves around this boy. He's a loyalist, and he was like his family are shipbuilders, and so he kind of decides there's like a historical boat that they decide they have to get on, and they find out that the boat is on fire while they're on it, and so they try to escape it.
There's lots of good boat pirate action.
There's all sorts of nautical action,
nautical action, that's the phrase. That's the literary term?
Yeah.
All right.
So I'll just read a little bit from this. Okay. As blistering flames swallowed more and more of the ship's deck, everybody scrambled as much as they could in such a confined area. The fire was seriously restricting their options. No one had a clue how the fire had started, but it seemed clear that the ship's arson was the work of a dastardly ghost pirate and not the security guards. The pirate must have beaten October and her friends to the Kingfisher, that's the name of the boat, stolen a necklace that Cyril had hidden there over 200 years ago, and left that smug little note for October in the process, and set the ship on fire as soon as October had set foot on its creaky boards. She'd walked right into a trap. "Where's the lifeboat?" October yelled to Cyril, since he had been somewhat involved in the shipbuilding. "Probably on fire, too," groaned Kirby, as he looked over the ship's sides. The dead kids, being corpses and intangible at will, leapt through various walls of fire to search around the ship for some sort of raft or rescue craft. Cyril, in the meantime, put his hands on October's shoulders to deliver some very unfortunate news. All the more troubling as it was delivered by a boy without a face. So, earlier in the last chapter, he ripped off his face to scare the security guards outside the boat. It's a kid's book, so there's lots of face ripping. October, there is no lifeboat. "What do you mean?" October started to panic. More. "We never built ships with lifeboats," he explained. "I'm not even certain what that word means, though I can sort of figure it out." Unluckily for October Schwartz and every sailor who lived before its invention, the first ever lifeboat used on a sailing vessel was built in 1784, a full 5 years after the Kingfisher. That's not something that comes up in most history books. October's eyes bulged. "No lifeboat? What are we going to do?" "I'm sure we'll come up with a solution," Cyril said, doffing his tricorn hat and fanning the flames' general direction. "Are we just going to die? Or am I?" "No, well," he said, continuing to wave his hat. "What are you doing? That's a ghost hat. That's not going to put out any fires." October probably would have continued to rant about how ridiculous Cyril was in his attempts to put out a burgeoning nautical inferno with one measly ghost hat, but the smoke caused her to hack and cough uncontrollably. Smoke inhalation is often the primary cause of death in fires, after all. The other dead kids, unable to find a lifeboat, returned to their living friend at the helm. "Are you okay?" October asked, slapping October's bent-over forearm on the back. "There's no lifeboat," Morner reported. "I know," October croaked and glared at Cyril as if it had been his decision to build ships without lifeboats until the later 1700s. "What are you going to do?" Morna asked. "You should swim for it," Tabitha said. "It's February," October said. And so I guess I'll end there. But yeah, so...
Nice, yeah!
Yeah! But yeah, you can see there's a lot about fires and boats.
Yeah.
It's about fire safety as well.
Yeah, you learn a lot about fire safety, yes. I didn't know that part about the lifeboats either. So.
Yeah, I know. I was just looking up because I was like, when I was writing, I was like, oh, so how will they get out? Basically, when I write the book, it's like a series of like, okay, they get in this situation, how are they going to get out? And I was like, well, maybe there's a lifeboat. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, they didn't build lifeboats until later. Yeah. I was like, I guess they would have just drowned on boats before then. No, yeah. It seems like a natural thing to build some sort of escape boat, but maybe not.
I guess so, but maybe that's why it's so revolutionary. The first guy was like, you know what we should do?
Yeah.
'Cause I've noticed a lot of us die on these ships.
Yeah, maybe we should have smaller ships we can just like take off here.
And it was like, that guy's smart.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
It's like the first person to put wheels on a suitcase, right?
Yeah. You know what we should do?
These are really heavy to carry around. Yeah.
That's cool. Thank you for taking time to read that.
Oh, yeah.
That, man.
Right.
And so, when you are at a book event, you also go to a lot of book events and launches and all those kind of things. And what makes a good book event successful?
I think it's a few things. Like, I feel like I think a lot of authors don't put as much attention in what they're reading as maybe they should. Like, you want to read a section, and maybe that section wasn't a great example, but usually I read for longer, but you want to read a section that's like really entertaining for the audience, that makes them want to know more, it makes them like feel something. Like, it doesn't have to be like funny, although that usually helps, but you want it to be like in some way kind of like emotionally gripping, whether it's funny or like really sad or really kind of like tense. That really helps. You always want to read for shorter than the time you're given. Like, usually they're like, all right, you have 15 minutes to read. Like, don't, whatever you think 15 minutes is, if you read what you think 15 minutes is, it's going to be like 20 or 25. So, like, go under, because no one's ever complained by, like that reading was too short, right? And usually the thing I've been noticing a lot, and it's kind of inspired me, is, like, stuff at readings that are not reading. So, like, maybe have a little bit of reading, but then have other stuff that's, like, fun. And like the audience can participate in. Like, recently I was hosting someone's book launch. They did a book launch about a book about Nicolas Cage, and so in addition to doing like a talk about Nicolas Cage, they also had a bunch of like Nick Cage based games. So it was like you had to like guess the amount of bees in like the basket, or like they had like a shooting gallery of like enemies from Nick Cage movies that they had like a rubber band gun that you had to shoot them.
Yeah.
So they had like all these kind of games, or I went to another book launch where they had like a trivia contest as part of it. So I feel like incorporating other activities in with the readings can really help like make it a more fun event.
That makes sense.
Especially because like a lot of times people go to book events and maybe they don't know anyone, maybe they just really like the author. So it can be really awkward if it's just like all there is like a reading and then just sort of general mingling. So it's good if there are like activities people can participate in, because it gives them something to do instead of just sort of like sitting and like trying to make awkward conversation with strangers, right? If you have something to talk about, like, oh, I love Face Off, I'm going to shoot John Travolta from Face Off in the shooting gallery, then you can just start talking with people automatically and not have to, it's not as awkward, I guess.
No, that makes sense, because I went to, not long ago, I went to a Leaf game, a hockey game last season, and it was boring because all it was just a game, and then you just watch it and then you leave.
Yeah.
When I go to basketball, when I go to NBA, they're throwing T-shirts at the audience.
Oh yeah, they have like all
comes
the
out and like they keep giving you like little things to look at, right? Then the girls come out dancing, and like then the game's happening. Yeah. And it was just like this constant.
And they're like, it's halftime. We got like a DJ come out. And stuff.
I saw Young MC actually last season.
Yeah, he was there. Yeah, my brother is like a big Raptors fan, and I go with him sometimes. But that's the thing about basketball games. They like know, it's like the NBA is like the Disneyland of like amusement. They know, like, if you go to Disneyland, you're like, we know you're going to be in line for a half hour. Here's some like entertaining things while you're on the line. And the NBA is like that. They're like, oh, here's all this stuff that happens.
Spectacle.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I was like bored at the hockey game. I'm like, that's all I get.
Yeah,
is just
where's
hockey.
the T-shirt cannon? Yeah,
like the mascot should come out and eat one of those like black security guards and give them the angry face.
And then they have like a dance off or something.
Yeah, like so all of that.
They could have like Ice Capades dancers come out during breaks. Yeah,
you can actually like call up the NHL and like, work this all out.
The problem with the NHL is they're like sell out before the season starts. They don't even need to do anything.
Yeah,
right?
I know. The checks.
There's there's no effort.
So maddening. And so I want to. You mentioned being the publicist for Coach. It was Coach House Books.
Yeah.
And so Coach House Book obviously is it primarily poetry, or did they ever have a couple of novels?
No, they do poetry and novels. They actually have been doing really well. I joke that like after I left Coach House, they've really like taken off, because right now they have a book that's on the Giller shortlist, a novel that's also up for a few other awards. So like they do novels and poetry, and they started doing some nonfiction, but it's mainly fiction and poetry.
And poetry, obviously, as a genre, is very hard to kind of sell and to kind of connect. There isn't a lot of appetite, a lot of demand for that. And so what did you take away from that experience that you're applying now as a writer, now that you've flipped it to the other side?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it was like finding ways to make it accessible to people, because poetry, I think especially has a reputation of being like something that's like, I don't understand it and I don't.
Esoteric.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's in some cases a fair description of it, right? Like it is kind of like a closed world and stuff like that. But I feel like a lot of my job in doing publicity for it was like I was pitching to newspapers and to radio and stuff like that. And part of the effort was like finding a way of making it relevant to their readers or to their viewers. And a lot of times that was finding out like, you know, how is this going to interest someone who's maybe not read a poetry book since high school, right? Or since university. So I always kind of think of that, like trying to think of like, it was really helpful in ways of like making things that maybe aren't necessarily obviously entertaining or obviously sort of like accessible to people, and finding there's always a way in. It just sort of takes some work into like taking a look through it and figuring out ways of like reaching out to people through that. And so like working with poetry, and a lot of times especially like at Coach House sometimes is fairly experimental poetry, which is like makes it even kind of less appealing to the average reader, right? Yeah. Oh, poetry. Oh, and it's like it's kind of hard to understand. This is, but like going through it and figuring out ways of like making this palatable and actually of interest to people. Be like, oh, that's a really cool idea, and then maybe they do pick it up, or maybe they do go out to the reading or whatever.
And as somebody like yourself who's plugged into the Canadian literary scene, or even the Toronto literary scene, I guess, if you want, we're doing well overall, aren't we?
Yeah, like I feel like Toronto is funny. I was at the Toronto Book Awards last week, and I'm actually this year I was on the jury for the Toronto Book Awards, and there was
classy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there was one of the nominees. What's his name? Bruce McDougall, I think is his name. He wrote The Last Hockey Game. So it was one of the books nominated about the last time the Leafs won the Stanley Cup. Mm-hmm. And it's a description of that game alone. But he was remarking like it was the Toronto Book Awards. There were probably like 200 people at the library for this awards. And he was like, this is great. Like I love Toronto because it's a city where like people read and people like go out to book things. And it is like kind of like it's one of the few cities in North America where it's like, oh, there still are a number of indie bookstores, and there still are like you can go out any night of the week to a book event and there are like people at it, right? Like there are crowds that go out. Like right now it's the Festival of Authors happening, but there are other events happening while this massive book event is happening, and like there'll be good attendance at both the IFOA and all these other kind of non-associated events. So, I mean, partially it has to do with like being the biggest city and where all the publishing is in Canada. But it is like there's like a really healthy book culture in Toronto, and there's some cities like that. Like I feel like the ones in the States, like places like Minneapolis, which is not like a major city, but has like a really big kind of literary scene. And I think Toronto is one of those for sure.
The winter always helps. Same thing with Minneapolis. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. You got a lot of time to like stay inside, and what are you gonna do? You read, yeah. Exactly.
And the TTC delays as well too.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like I used to watch work when I was at Coach House, and now I read so much because I have to take the TTC to work. It's like I got half hour or usually longer because there always are delays or something. Yeah.
And speaking of the IFOA, you got an event tonight, right?
That's true.
So explain the event, because this is really neat. You have a whole bunch of graphic artists or graphic comic book guys.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like I've been hosting events for the IFOA for the past year or two. And it's great. Like, it's a really fun gig. You go and you kind of introduce the authors and things like that. But this year, they usually, like, send you a few different options. And one of them was this one. So it was a round table with Adrian Tomini, Jillian Tamaki, and Dylan Horrocks, who are three, like, great comic artists and writers, cartoonists, I guess. And they're like, do you want to host this round table? I was like, are you sure? Like, did this email come to the right person? Like, I'm nobody. Like, these are like amazing, like some of the best comic makers,
Adrian's
right?
Shortcomings.
Yeah,
that's really solid.
Yeah, he's great. Like, and Jillian Tamaki is amazing. Dylan Horrocks is kind of lesser, not as well known. He's from New Zealand, but his work is awesome too. And it was just like, oh, sure. Like, I would love to do this. Like, I would pay to do this. Like, and so it's this event. It's the three of them going to be talking comics. Hopefully I ask them, like, relatively intelligent questions. I hope. Yeah, nobody gets offended by the questions I ask. And it's free, too, which is the amazing part. I was like, oh, this is like people would pay to see these
Yeah,
people,
I
like, and
know.
pay like good money to see these, like, even if you just had like Adrian Tomini alone, people would pay money to see him talk. So this is like a free event on a Saturday night. I'm like, this will probably be packed. I have no idea. So I'm both like really excited about it, but also kind of nervous. I'm like, oh, how do I ask questions that they haven't been asked like, 100 times already and things like that.
I back in May I interviewed Scott McCloud.
Oh, awesome. For the sculptor?
Yeah. And he was talking about how when he was in Texas, the guy clearly hadn't read The Sculptor, and so he just thought he interpreted it as a cartoon. And so he's like, so how did you find all the guys who do the voices? And he was just asking questions like that.
Yeah. He's
You know
like,
what I mean?
yeah. Well, at least I read their books, so I'm like a step ahead of that guy in Texas.
And you're not going to ask about like the voices.
Yeah, exactly. How do you animate the how do you draw so many so quick? It's funny because the Dylan Horrocks book, which is called Sam Zabel and the Magic Pen, is a lot like The Sculptor, like in kind of tone, like in theme and stuff. It's also about like a artist and like kind of talking about art and sort of like the responsibility of art.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny. They're very similar. Those two books came out around the same time.
Are you reading a lot of comics these days, other than for this?
Yeah, I do. Like, not as much as I used to. I feel like I buy more comics than I read, and I'm always like, oh, I'll read these soon, as soon as I have, like, as soon as I've done all this other work. So, but yeah, I do still read a lot of comics, and a lot of stuff I like, yeah.
Like cape stuff, or like, kind of like, we
Both.
were talking about Adrian with like shortcomings.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I find those are nice, because I like the Spider-Man, Batman, and whatever, and those have a good place, and they're good stories.
Yeah.
But then I also find like reading something like Shortcomings is kind of nice, and it's just like or The Sculpture's a great one too, right? Where it's just a nice, solid
Well, it's
novel.
also, yeah, and those are nice too, because you don't have to keep up, right? Like, you can just read it, and you're like, then I've read it. Whereas a lot of the superhero stuff, which I still love a lot of, but sometimes it can be hard to keep up. You're like, oh, I'm behind, or like I have to read this comic too to understand what's happening in this one, and you kind of get lost with it. So it can be hard to keep up, and you kind of feel like you're falling behind at all times. But yeah, I like both. Like, one of my favorite comics right now, and has been for the past few years, is Daredevil, which I never really liked growing up. I never kind of...
Mark Waid?
Yeah, the Mark Waid and
Yeah.
like Chris Samney, who I think is like one of the best illustrators working today. I like love them working together on that Daredevil. So I really like that. There are a few other ones like Bitch Planet is awesome.
I haven't read
Bitch Planet is great. It's like, imagine like Orange is the New Black, but like in space. So it's like a space prison, space women's prison, and it's like it's awesome. And Saga, I love Saga.
Saga's so much fun.
Yeah.
It's actually like you can tell Brian K. Vaughan is having fun.
Yeah.
Like he's not. There's no pressure on him almost.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of like anything can happen in it, right? Like it's
Yeah.
a really cool kind of space adventure. I love Saga. But yeah, there's a lot of other good stuff, like kind of like self-contained stuff. Like the Adrian Tomini book is like really great, and yeah, Scott McCloud's a sculptor. The other one that I liked really recently was Jess Fink, who did a comic called We Can Fix It, or I Can Fix. No, I think it's called We Can Fix It. And basically, it's very like influenced by Back to the Future. It's like her going back in time to her own life and like kind of like figuring out where she went wrong and figuring out things, but also does stuff in like time travel movies that you would never see. So like she like makes out with herself, and you're like, yeah, you'd probably try that if there were two of you, right? Yeah, you would be curious. So like, yeah. So it's like stuff like that.
Still better than killing baby Hitler, right?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go back and make up myself.
Yeah.
Sorry, World War II.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's some really fun stuff out there. I also really like, what's it called? The book that Chip Zdarsky and
he was working on
Keiki McCloud.
Sex Criminals?
Sex Criminals is great, but there's another one. It's called Capterra.
Oh, yeah.
The one that's sort of like space, like weird fantasy one.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's like him and
I'm getting
Keiki McCloud, I think.
Maybe.
I think Keiki McCloud does the
it's hard to keep
illustration.
up with Chip these days. He's
so busy, yeah.
He's been cranking. He did some stuff with Jughead now, too.
Yeah.
And like Howard, he was doing Howard the Duck too.
Yeah, exactly.
So he was doing.
He's blowing up.
Yeah, that kid is going places.
Yeah.
And then switching gears, we'll keep it with pop culture, but switching gears though, I did want to ask you about your dance movie.
Obsession.
We're gonna go with the word obsession.
Sure, go for it. Yeah. I don't know what it was. Like, honestly, I think it only started a few years ago when a friend of mine was like, "Oh, we're going to see Step Up Revolution," which is the fourth Step Up movie. And they're like, do you want to come? And like, I had literally not seen any of the Step Ups. So I was like, sure.
Yeah.
I kind of feel behind, but I went and I was like, this is amazing. And I like went back and watched all of the Step Ups. And now it's like basically any dance movie that comes out, I will see it. The film festival was here, I guess a month ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, can I find a dance movie? And there was one. I mean, there were a couple, but there was one from New Zealand called Born to Dance. And it's basically like Save the Last Dance, but replace like kind of like urban Black youth with like urban Maori youth in New Zealand, and it was like very similar, but it was like great as this like New Zealand dance movie, and it was awesome. But I just kind of like have gotten really obsessed with them. I feel like they're really interesting, and I feel like I also really love like kung fu movies and like martial arts movies, and I feel like dance movies are almost like they're like martial arts movies where like nobody gets beat up, right?
Oh, that's actually
like I find them very similar. They're almost like pacifist kung fu movies because it's very similar. You're just like most of the reason you're there is to watch people do these like amazing feats of like acrobatics and like strength of their bodies, and the only difference is like when they're trying to defeat the enemy through like actually subduing them, and and they're trying to defeat like some other dance crew with like better moves, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. That's the Michael Jackson Beat It video,
right? Yeah, like I feel like they're very similar. They're even similar in like kind of their progression, right? Like there's like training montages.
Yes.
There's always like kind of some kind of like either like person who's using kung fu for evil or using dance for like negative ends, or like they're trying to defeat like an evil corporation that wants to like destroy their neighborhood and set up a hotel. There's always things like that. So like
don't forget the setback where everything starts to look bleak.
Yeah, exactly. Or like the crew like starts to fall apart. Yeah. Then it's like I just like have gotten very interested in them as kind of a genre, because I also feel like part of the interesting thing about film that makes it different from other mediums is that it is like a medium that involves motion. And like I don't understand when people are like get down on like action movies or dance movies or like kung fu movies, because I'm like, these are movies that are actually like making full use of what film is. Like stuff should be moving, right?
Motion pictures.
Yeah, they're motion pictures. Like you want to see stuff moving, you want to see stuff blowing up, you want to see stuff doing stuff that you don't see on the street, right?
Yeah.
And like hopefully there's like a good story and stuff attached to it, but I feel like movies where it's just kind of like talking head, like that could be a play on stage, or like, well, I guess
Dinner
it's
with Andre or something.
Yeah, exactly, which is a fine movie, but it's like this is not making full use of the medium, right? So like I feel like dance movies are like a movie genre that takes total use of like the medium, and I kind of just like really excited. I mean, they're just really fun too. I remember, so I saw the most recent Step Up movie, Mississauga, and it was like literally the only movie. There's like a kind of move that they've been trying to get right, and they get it right at the very end. Like during the final competition, they land this like amazing move. And they do it. But this woman in front of me in the audience just she fired like her imaginary gun in the air at that point in the theater. She was like, brah, brah, during like once they nail it. And I was like, literally no one has done that at any other movie I've seen.
Yeah.
Clearly, like, this is the best movie. Like, it inspired her to, like, just, like, shout that out. No,
it connected right here.
Right, yeah. I was like, there's something to it that just, like, really got people excited.
That's cool. And so Step Up, I guess, is your go-to series, or like?
Yeah, like, I feel like Step Up is, like, the current... It's, like, I feel like it's almost like the Fast and Furious movies, where it's, like, somehow against all obstacles, they get like better as they go along. Like I don't know, I guess it's arguable with Fast and Furious, but I think it's inarguable that like the past few ones have been a lot better than the early ones
for Fast and Furious.
I feel like it probably peaked at like maybe 5 and like has been like fairly high since then, but like the Step Ups are like the less connected. The first one was like kind of like a whitewashed Save the Last Dance, or like if you like Save the Last Dance but we're like troubled by like the interracial romance, we've got Step Up for you, right? But then like as they like got further and further away from that story and got like just more about the like pure dance, they get better and better. So I feel like those ones are a good one.
Fast and Furious, I think, just started off as just a generic kind of like the white cops going undercover with the street thugs.
Well, the first one's like like Point Break, but with cars instead of surfing, right? Yeah.
And I think it was just kind of like It's just a throwaway movie almost. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
Like, they'll have some cars in there, some pretty girls in shorts.
Yeah.
And it's all set in LA, and then that's kind of it. And I don't think they certainly couldn't have envisioned.
Yeah, like what it would become.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I don't know how to drive. I have like no interest in cars, so I'm not going to watch like, oh, that's awesome cars going fast. It's just like, oh, this is like a bonkers. Like I feel like they've like almost surpassed like superhero movies and being like more like superhero movies than like the Avengers, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, they were one of the first ones really to come up with a proper shared universe.
Yeah, exactly.
They've been building it since the third one.
Right?
So, and I, again, with your comic background, my comic book background,
Yeah.
it was like we got this right away because all these characters come in and out of the movies.
Yeah. And the weird thing, somebody like a friend of mine who totally got me into the Fast and Furious movies by explaining this shared universe. I'm like, oh, okay, I have to watch all these now.
Yeah.
But he also explained that like it's a universe that like coexists with other movies. Like Han is like from a different movie entirely.
Yeah.
He's from like one of the director's other movies, and they just imported him into the Fast and Furious universe. I'm like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's the best thing I've ever heard.
I know. And I guess we were talking about lifeboats on the pirate ship, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing where like I think they realized they could just go for broke on this.
Yeah.
And if it works, it works. And it's obviously been working, but it's like that was a good gamble. Let's
Yeah.
try this and we'll see where it goes. I'm like, oh, okay, that's $1 billion franchise.
Yeah,
That'll
yeah,
work then.
I guess it worked out for them.
Phew.
Okay, yeah.
Are you enjoying this recent kind of superhero movie explosion, or are you tired yet?
I'm kind of a little tired. I remember like when I was a kid or when I was younger, like they were so rare. I would see like literally any comic book movie. I was like, even if I didn't like them, I was like, oh, it's a comic book movie, so obviously I'm gonna see it, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm trying to think of examples of like
Christopher Reeve stuff towards the end, the third one, the fourth
yeah,
one.
but even like I'd be like Meteor Man, that's sort of about superheroes. I'll go see that.
Yeah.
But now it's just like I kind of really pick and choose because I'm like I haven't seen Ant-Man and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think my main complaint is like people, they really spend a lot of time with the origin story.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's like so boring to most people, myself included. I'm like because they keep rebooting stuff too, right? And it's like, how many times do I have to see how Spider-Man became Spider? Like, it's never going to be plausible, right? Like, it's never going to be like, oh, that's probably how you get spider powers.
Yeah.
I'm glad they spent an hour of a movie explaining that. It's like nobody cares. Everyone knows the story by this point, or everyone, like especially Superman. It's like everyone knows he came from a doomed planet. Like the most recent Superman movie, they spent like an hour explaining why Krypton.
The Zack Snyder one.
Yeah,
I know.
I'm like, who cares? Like, no, everybody knows that. It's just not interesting. So I feel like there's too much obsession with like explaining how superheroes exist, and I'd really like to see, like, I usually like the second and third superhero movies because they're like,
set the universe up.
We've already explained everything, now we can just tell a story in this universe. Like, I feel like Spider-Man 2, the Sam Raimi one, is like one of the best superhero movies because it was just like, you already know why Spider-Man, here's just a story about Spider-Man and Dr. Octopus.
Well, and I think your point is valid because it's like the audience, if you're going to see a movie like Batman, they can't be surprised, like, why is a billionaire putting on a rubber bat suit to fight crime? That makes no sense.
Like people like audibly gasping when his parents get shot.
Yeah.
Like, what? I had no idea.
So it's like you kind of know what you're getting into, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you're going to see a Woody Allen film and there's some weird twist or something like that. So if it's already built into the audience and like it's Batman or it's Aquaman or it's Spider-Man or whatever it is, it's like, just go with it.
People are going because they like have some faith in like, I'm gonna just take a leap and like assume these things exist. Like there weren't a lot of like examples in like Hollywood, I guess, for all, but I used to love like movies like Battle Royale, that like Japanese movie, because they're like basically they're like, don't explain anything. There's like a title at the beginning. They're like, in the future, they take one class and like make them kill each other on an island. And you're like, oh, okay, I guess that's what happens. Like, they don't really explain like the reasoning. It's just like, get used to it.
But it's such a cool movie.
Yeah, but you're just like, all right, I guess that's what happens. And like the only thing I feel like that does that now is like the Mad Max Fury Road was kind of like, they didn't explain anything. They're just like, this is the world now. Get used to it. Because we're gonna just like keep going without you. And I really like that kind of filmmaking instead, where they don't like have to explain everything or like give a reason as to why things are this way. Yeah,
I found Avengers 2. I don't know if you saw that one, but there was a lot of talking and exposition. And it's like, you know what I mean? They'd be like running and then have to stop and basically look at the camera.
Yeah.
What this means and why we're doing this. And I'm like, right? Like I just even having a background, but like most of the audience already kind of knows.
Yeah.
Right. It's the same thing with Star Trek. Like you don't always understand what the lithium crystals do or something like this.
Yeah.
But you know that that's bad.
Exactly. And you're like, and really, there's no way you're gonna explain it that is like scientifically accurate. So like, stop.
Yeah. I understand that's bad, and you're trapped in space. Oh no!
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
People are not looking to this for like future science
No.
projects. Yeah, they're just
No, I just want a good story.
Interesting
and then,
story,
like,
yeah.
How are you gonna get out of? Or like the passage you read in the book, right? It's like there's a pirate ship and it's on fire, right? Like
How
are
do
you
we
gonna
get out of this?
Yeah, and that's all you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna continue writing, and this one just came out.
The third one, Loyalist to a Fault. Yeah.
And so the third one just came out, and so you're hoping, I guess, to crank them out once a year or so?
Yeah, ideally. That's kind of the goal. Because the problem is, especially with kids' book, if you take too long between them, your readership kind of ages out of your books, right? Like, they'll get so old, they're like, I don't care about. I'm reading adult books now, right? But yeah, that's a plan. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's the idea. I'm really looking forward to, like, my dream is to have, like, one of those box sets you used to see, you know, where they come in, like, a pre-made box that have the whole series. I would love that one day to have one of those in a bookstore.
That's cool. Are you going to start licensing some of the stuff, too, into, like, T-shirts or toys or...
I don't know. I mean, the first one has been optioned for film and TV, so, like, someone bought... Nice, yeah. So, like, a lot of stuff gets optioned and nothing ever happens to it, but someone is trying to develop it into a TV series. So we'll see if that... Like, a live-action one, so we'll see if anything happens with that. But that's kind of the first thing.
You gotta find a way, because now that it's going to TV, you gotta find a way to put a dance sequence.
Yeah, there should. There's almost no dance. There are no dance battles whatsoever in this book, are there?
Still got 4 more books to go.
Although I guess the dance obsession was early, because I remember that Quarter Life Crisis book. There's a whole battle on Dance Dance the Revolution. So maybe I was always interested in dance battles. All
right, we'll have to see where this goes.
Yeah.
All right, I think we covered everything. Like, we covered, like, The Dead Kid Detective.
Yeah.
We covered Dance. We covered Fast and Furious.
Right?
I think we did.
What else is there?
That's it. That's it. I think we solved the major issues of life.
Yeah, exactly. All the issues facing us today.
Thank you, Evan, for coming in and just hanging out with My Summer Lair.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.